Myra Hindley has earned the title of the most hated woman in Britain. She was born on July 23, 1942, in a suburb of Manchester known as Crumpsall. After the birth of her sister Maureen, Myra was sent to live with her grandparents at the age of 4 to give her parents time with the new baby. However, she never really returned home. Myra was a very intelligent child and was known for her good grades and above-average IQ, but her attendance at school was poor because her grandmother often let her skip. Throughout her teenage years, she was a dedicated and responsible babysitter. When she was 15 years old, her good friend Michael Higgins drowned at the age of 13, and she felt an immense amount of guilt for not being there when it happened. In 1961, Myra would meet Ian Brady, who at the time was recently released from prison. It was clear that she became obsessed with Ian and that he had an extremely bad influence on her. Just 2 years after meeting, they began planning in their minds the perfect murder. On July 12, 1963, the couple would kill their first victim. 16-year-old Pauline Reed was on her way to a local dance when Myra requested she help look for a missing glove. After being lured by Myra, Ian assaulted Pauline and was buried in a shallow grave. Their next victim was taken just 4 months later. 12-year-old John Kilbride was abducted from a market and lured to Saddleworth Moor and was never seen again. Their next victim, Keith Bennett, was 12 years old when he was abducted and killed by the couple in June of 1964. In December of 1964, 10-year-old Leslie Ann Downey was abducted and taken to the couple's house, where she was forced to pose for pictures. She was later killed and buried on Saddleworth Moor. The couple's final victim was Edward Evans. Once the killers had brought Edward to their home, they called Myra's brother-in-law David. He witnessed the couple murder Edward and was the reason for their capture. Myra Hindley and Ian Brady were sentenced to life in prison. Myra confessed her leading role in the abductions by claiming it was her duty because the children were more trusting towards a woman. Myra Hindley's evil acts proved to the public that women were just as capable as men to commit horrid acts. She passed away in November of 2002. Amelia Dyer. Amelia Dyer was born in 1837 in a small village in Bristol, United Kingdom. Her mother fell ill, and as it grew more concerning, Amelia helped care for her mother. Later in her life, she became a nurse/midwife. During this period of time, baby farming was popular because of a law that allowed fathers of illegitimate children to opt out of supporting a child. As a result, baby farmers would adopt children for a fee and would take care of them. Sadly, these children were often mistreated. Amelia began advertising her services in the newspaper. When she would receive a baby, rather than care for them, she would murder them. Her method was either starving the child, strangulation, or opium-laced syrup, nicknamed Mother's Friend. Many of the children she adopted would only last a few days and sometimes just a few hours. Doctors grew suspicious of the number of deaths under her care, and she was charged with neglect and sentenced to just 6 months of labor. Shortly after her release, she relocated in order to continue her crimes. Instead of involving any doctors, she began discarding the remains herself. Victim Helena Fry was found in a nearby river and was linked back to Amelia. More and more victims were being recovered, and Amelia was arrested. Her trial was in May of 1896, and it took a jury just 5 minutes to find her guilty, and she was sentenced to death. She was hanged on June 10, 1896. It is estimated that she killed upwards of 400 children. Nannie Doss, aka the Giggling Granny. Nannie Doss was born on November 4, 1905. During her childhood, she missed a lot of schoolwork to work on their family farm. Her father was abusive, and although her mother did little about the abuse, it is said that she was still a loving mother. When Nannie was 7 years old, she suffered a head injury on a train which she claims caused her an abundance of depression and headaches. She even blames this accident as the reason for her crimes. Growing up, she enjoyed reading romance magazines. Her father forbid her from wearing makeup or attractive clothing in fear of her getting sexually assaulted, which happened several times. Nannie Doss got married to her first husband at 16 years old, Charles Braggs. They had 4 children together, but 2 of them died from food poisoning. It is believed that they were killed by Nannie. In 1928, the 2 of them divorced. In 1929, Nannie got married to Frank Carlson, a 23-year-old factory worker from Jacksonville. Their marriage wasn't great after Nannie discovered Frank's addiction to alcohol. During this period, it is believed that she killed her newborn granddaughter with a hairpin to the brain. Just months later, Nannie was taking care of her grandson Robert when he died of asphyxia. She collected $500 from the life insurance which she had taken out on him. After returning from service from World War II, Frank was celebrating with his friends, and when he came home, he raped Nannie. The next day, she poured rat poisoning in his alcohol, and he died in September of 1945. Nannie married her 3rd husband, Arlie Jackson Lanning, just 3 days after knowing him. She confessed to murdering him with rat poisoning, but at the time, his cause of death was believed to be heart failure. Her 4th husband was named Richard L. Morton, and they got married in 1952. Nannie Doss poisoned her own mother, and she died on January 3, 1953. Richard Morton was murdered just months later in May of 1953. Her 5th and final husband was Samuel Doss, and they got married a few months after the death of Morton. Samuel did not approve of the romance magazines that Nannie enjoyed. Her first attempt at murdering Samuel failed. He was taken to the hospital after eating a poisoned cake. He was diagnosed with a severe digestive tract infection. Nannie killed him the day he was released from the hospital. The doctor grew suspicious of his death and ordered an autopsy. This would reveal a large amount of arsenic in his system. Nannie Doss was arrested, and during interrogation she confessed to the murder. Her past husbands' bodies were exhumed, and it was confirmed that they had died of rat poisoning or arsenic. She was only charged with the murder of Samuel Doss and was found guilty. She received a life sentence. She passed away in 1965 from leukemia. She earned her nickname the Giggling Granny after laughing while telling the story of how she murdered her husband and also making jokes about her case.